Now that was a bit much. I mean, yeah, you Diana Ross, but you know goddamn well you're not supposed to sit in the front pew, Diana. Well, hello there, lovebugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook and or Twitter, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com for these super fly shades. I think I have one more pair on hand, and then I have a few more coming in because they sold out so quickly. And I also have a black version of these coming in also. Okay. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, baby, we're done. The Lost Supreme. The Life of a Dream Girl. Florence Ballard. Flo's situation had improved, but she had fallen into a pattern. An injustice would be committed against her. She would respond with everything she had, putting her foes on the defensive. Unhinged, they would stagger backwards, giving her an opportunity to follow through. She would then give up her opportunity, drop her guard, and allow herself to be cheated on, pushed aside. She followed this pattern with Diana Ross, Leonard Bound, Tommy Chapman, the men who kidnapped, robbed her, and may have planned to kill her, and many other people and entities, including Motown. Florence always characterized her tendency to let her opponents off easy as a combination of disgust, sorrow for her foe, and fatigue of accepting the settlement from Bond. She says she did so because she thought, well, this can go on forever and ever and ever. And they said Leonard Bond is $100,000 in debt to the IRS. What the hell that got to do with you? What the hell that got to do with you, Flo? The IRS don't give a hell if you owe the car repo man. They don't give a hell. They want their money. The guy's messed up, getting ready to get disbarred and everything. So I just went on and took his insurance money and invested it and said, well, let's see what happens with that. As for her feelings towards Diana Ross and Mary Wilson, Flo expressed ambivalence in 1975. After she and Ross had both left the Supreme, she said Diane would come to town and she wouldn't even call to say hello or anything, Flo said. I thought it was kind of ridiculous. All three of us growing up together, then turning out to dislike each other. I didn't dislike her because I said to myself, if Diane had been in the predicament I was in, I would be right there to help her. And to this day, if she ever should fall into a hard predicament, I would still help her as much as I could. But I guess she felt different. Sometimes I have regrets and wish I was back in the group. But a lot of times I say to myself, would it be worth it to go back into it and have the same thing happen again? Because basically, Mary Wilson, the only original Supremes now, she's still singing, but she didn't get what she deserved money-wise either. On a winter day in 1976, Flo visited her mother's house where her sister, Linda, was also living, and ate one ice cube after another right out of the freezer. When her mother asked her, why, Flo? I feel hot all the time. Then she told Mrs. Ballard, if anything happens to me, Mama, take my kids. Flo returned home without incident, but her condition worsened during the night. Her daughter Nicole called Linda the next day to tell her that something was seriously wrong. Linda was anxious to reach her sister, but couldn't start her car until late morning. Nicole, growing increasingly frantic, also kept trying to reach her father, who was working as a chauffeur for a local minister. She finally contacted Chapman by phone a little after noon. Linda was also calling him. After I kept pleading with him to do something, Linda said he finally picked me up. Linda later criticized Chapman for not coming home immediately. Tommy acted as if Flo being sick was interfering with his schedule. She said when Linda and Tommy reached Flo's house, Linda found her sister lying on the floor, unable to move. I had to use all my strength to pick her up off the floor and put her on the couch, Linda said. Tommy didn't help me. When I asked her what was wrong, she told me in a robotic voice that she couldn't move from the waist down. If anything happens to me, Flo said again, take care of my baby. Apparently referring to Lisa, her youngest daughter. Tommy said later that by 2:30 a.m., the doctors had told him they felt that Flo was pulling through and he could go home. Before I left the hospital, she was smiling and had just fallen off to sleep, Chapman said. About 7:30 a.m., I received a call from the hospital asking me to get there as soon as possible. When I got there, I waited for about 30 minutes. And then the doctor came out and told me my wife was dead. Flo died on February 22nd, 1976. The cause on the death certificate was coronary artery thrombosis. She was 32. The Wayne County Medical Examiner, Dr. Werner Spitz, indicated in news articles at the time that he'd been told that before Flo had been admitted to the emergency room, she had been drinking and taking 2 different medications, one to facilitate weight loss and the other to counter high blood pressure. The autopsy told a different story. According to Assistant Medical Examiner James Milani, the physician who performed the procedure, there were no drugs in Flo's system except a small amount of Sinequin, an antidepressant. Although Dr. Mulani indicated he'd been told that Flo also had been taking Tinuant, an appetite suppressant, and Lasix, a drug used to treat excessive fluid accumulation and swelling, he discovered no traces of these drugs in her system and only a trace of alcohol. What killed Flo, according to the autopsy, was a combination of heart disease, a blood clot, hypertension, and obesity. I attended Flo's funeral, which was held at the New Bethel Baptist Church. The congregation was ministered to by Reverend C.L. Franklin. We call him C.L. Smooth because he's so fucking smooth. That would be Riri's pappy. Before the funeral began, a group of about 5,000 fans wearing everything from evening gowns to work clothes had gathered outside the church. When a limousine pulled up next to the church steps and Diana Ross jumped out, the fans booed. Diana's mother, standing nearby, looked extremely unhappy. It's not clear if Diana had been invited. Tommy Chapman, Flo's husband, had made the funeral arrangements and he died in the 1980s. But Flo's daughters and other relatives said that invitation or no invitation, Diana knew that family would welcome her inside the church. Diana marched down the center aisle and was seated next to Tommy in the front pew reserved for Flo's family members. Now that was a bit much. I mean, yeah, you Diana Ross, but you know goddamn well you're not supposed to sit in the front pew, Diana. That's a negative. The only people that's supposed to sit in the front pew. Matter of fact, when my mother died, I didn't sit in the front pew. Not because I didn't think I deserved to sit in the front pew when my mama died, but it was all her sisters and brothers on the front pew. And me and my sister sat directly behind them. I don't know, but like I said, I think Diana be oblivious sometimes of the world surrounding her. I think she be so in her mind that she doesn't connect with how her actions affect other people. Because I'm like, you're not supposed to sit on the front pew. Taking Flo's youngest girl, Lisa, from her father, Diana placed the child in her lap. The picture of the former First Supreme holding the little daughter of the deceased lost Flo would be printed in newspapers across the country and around the world. Now, pause. I know people are like, damn, Diane, was this a photo opportunity? I don't know what to say about the boss. I don't know. I try my best to protect her, but, I can't protect her all the time because I know when the boss do messed up stuff. It was the only image of the funeral most people saw, making the occasion an emblem of Diana's starhood rather than a celebration of Florence's life and a scene of mourning for her death. Every act from Motown sent a floral arrangement, Diana said. I love you, Blondie, Berry Gordy said. Goodbye, Flo. That nigga. Just after Reverend Franklin completed the funeral ceremony, Diana jumped up and said, "Can I have the microphone, please? Murray and I would like to have a silent prayer." According to Wilson, Diana had not told her she was planning to do this. The two weren't even on speaking terms, but Mary could hardly refuse to stand up beside Diana at her friend's funeral. I believe nothing disappears and Flo will always be with us, Diana said. When she handed the mic to Mary, all Mary could think of to say was, I loved her so much. As the mourners filed out of the church, the organist played Someday We'll Be Together, a Supremes hit recorded and performed after Flo had been thrown out of the group again and again. Crowd pushed towards Flo's coffin, and the pallbearers, Duke Fakir, Obie Benson, Levi Stubbs, Lawrence Payton, Marv Johnson, and Theron Hill had to be escorted by attendants. The onlookers pressed forward with such energy that the attendants tried to slow them down by throwing into the midst the flower arrangements that had been sent by Flo's competitors and employers. The crowd destroyed the arrangements. It was pandemonium, Linda said. The fans started jumping on top of the hearse, taking Flo's flowers, trying to get something that belonged to her. When the burial party reached the cemetery, Detroit Memorial Park, only Flo's family, the pallbearers, the Four Tops, and Mary Wilson were there. Flo's body was buried under a gravestone that read simply, Florence Glenda Chapman, beloved wife and mother, June 30th, 1943, February 22nd, 1976.